Okay, so the other day, Steve Dangle, the Leafs YouTube blogger, tweeted out, should Oilers fans want Edmonton to pick 4th or 5th so the Oilers can save themselves from themselves and draft a defender? Now, the reason I bring up this tweet specifically is because this tweet illustrates how the Oilers are perceived by the rest of the NHL. See, the Oilers have a bad reputation.
With the historic first selection in the National Hockey League Draft 2010, I'm extremely excited to select from the Windsor Spitfires,
Taylor Hall, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins,
Nail Yakupov,
Darnell Nurse, Leon Draisaitl,
Connor McDavid.
And believe me, they have earned it. Alex Thomas over at the Oilers Rig wrote an excellent piece, and there's a link to it below in the description, about how the Oilers' playoff drought is the worst in professional sports history. And I wholeheartedly agree with him. The main thing that stands out to me is that the Oilers have missed the playoffs over and over and over again in a league that prides itself on its parity, in a league where anybody who sneaks into the playoffs can win the championship. The Oilers have been some sort of inexplicable reverse underdog story where they sneak into the draft lottery and win every year. Anyway, what Steve is referring to in his tweet is the fact that the Oilers attempted to build their team around forwards instead of defensemen. And the top 4 ranked players in the draft this year are forwards. So there are 2 things that I want to talk about today, and they go hand in hand. The first is something that I have harped on all year, even as recently as last week. The defense. A stud defenseman, top defenseman. And the defense, they have no defense. Due to the Oilers' awful reputation, there are a lot of people who believe they've just completely neglected their defense in their rebuild and that the blue line still needs a ton of work. Well, let's take a look at their defense. Oh, sorry, my bad. That's the defense they're currently playing with. In my opinion, here is their ideal defense core when everyone's healthy. Now, 2 of these guys were acquired through free agency and 1 in a trade. But Davidson was drafted by the Oilers in 2010, Klefbom was drafted by the Oilers in 2011, and Nurse was drafted by the Oilers in 2013. See, the thing about defensemen is they take time to develop. One of the many reasons the Oilers' rebuild fell flat on its face is that they didn't draft and develop any defensemen from 2007 to 2009. They needed players taken in that time period to come of age by the time they brought in Hall, Eberle, and Nugent-Hopkins. It didn't happen. The main reason that people are still talking about Edmonton's defense needing so much work is because the Oilers' defense has had so many injuries this year that people outside of Edmonton don't seem to realize it's no longer a glaring weakness on the team. The 2 guys who have played the best hockey on their blue line this year have missed almost an entire season's worth of games between the 2 of them. The Oilers don't need to draft a defenseman with their pick. Now, it wouldn't be a bad idea to, but it's not going to make or break them. Which brings me to my second point. In answer to Steve's question, the last thing I want is for the Oilers to win the draft lottery. As a matter of fact, I'd like to see teams above them in the standings win all 3 lottery spots so that the Oilers' pick drops. Now, I know I'm in the minority on this, but the reason I feel this way is it doesn't matter who they draft. That player needs to play junior hockey or in the American Hockey League next season. And the lower that selection is, the less expectation there is on the player and the management to have that player be an immediate part of the team's future. And if the unthinkable happens and the Oilers win the draft lottery again, they should trade the pick, no question. And I'm not even very comfortable with that scenario because I don't want to see them in a situation where they can't get fair value for the pick and they have to select Austin Matthews. Matthews is ready to play in the NHL next season, and the last thing the Oilers need is another 18-year-old player in their lineup, no matter how skilled they are. I'll see you next week.